Back up to Class A with this little game. So White's telling me they want to fianchetto, and I always use Alekhein's defence, so it's just kind of natural, even in this fianchetto variation, because after this it's sort of the equivalent, and then I can do this. And now that fianchetto is a bit weak, obviously mustn't move my black bishop before getting all of that ready. And again, this is just like a continuation of Alekhein's defence, really.
Check.
And not to mess with my black pawn structure, which is what he probably wants. Just mess with his structure instead. I have weakened that rook pawn on the right there, but... and few options for the knight. Doesn't want to block in the bishop, so he has to kind of go back to that rather stupid square. And now I've well and truly blocked him in. So he tries to break through, and I decide to just complicate matters with this, because now that's a hanging pawn there on the d file. It's not the d file, sorry, it's the e file. And of course he has this, but this is very dangerous for him because he's got his king ready to be checked, and he's moves to the wrong square.
Check.
And that costs him the bishop. The threat would have been queen takes pawn with check there, but I have better ideas. Bishop takes pawn, and after this, little sacrifice here, because now check, and he blocks with the knight, but I can recapture with the rook, because if he recaptures, which he does,
check.
It's check with my queen on his rook. And now, well, I could have exchanged queens right here, and actually that would have been better because, yeah, I didn't think about it because it cost me a pawn in the end.
Check. Check.
I was hoping I'd be able to force the queening here with this move. You know, kill his queen and still have a queen, but he did this very, very good move.
Check.
Force the exchange and cost me my queen pawn. Got to get other artillery out, because now, basically, what I've got is an extra knight. That's it. 5 pawns each and an extra knight. Although my pawns are a bit better than his. A bit better, slightly better. Now, that knight's on a nice square for me, guarding both those pawns. And now the knights are guarding each other. Pretty good. Threatening just to take the pawn. He has to rush to defend.
Check.
And this gives me an opportunity for a check.
Check.
And another. And now I've got to be careful, my other knight is hanging. And the danger is that by moving it here, he can now take the pawn with his rook, which he does, but the bigger danger is that he can now check me and win my rook, so I have to deal with that situation, which I will do. Like this, just move the rook up to there. See, that's just recapturing the pawn, and also, it's basically offering an exchange of knights. He goes for this instead. And this is all great. I mean, you know, it looks like he's going to make just exchanges after exchange, but the problem is I have an extra knight. Now I'm threatening to take his knight, and he can't take my knight first because of his own pinned knight, so he has to move his king yet again. And now check here.
Check.
And the other knight comes in. And then here, pinning his knight, and here, wins the calculus. It's going to be better than an exchange of knights, you'll see. Check, taking the knight, recapturing with the rook, capturing with the knight, but he can't capture that knight because it's marked. So now his only hope is to try and queen. And it's quite hard to move your king around the board when you've got two knights covering various squares. This is good because with this pawn move here, even if he captures, I just recapture. If he doesn't capture, I just carry on till I queen. But his pawns are looking deadly here. My king can't really get to the queening square very easily. So I have to capture. And then after this,
check.
I've got this. Unfortunately now, it's a good trade to trade that knight for the pawn if it advances, so that pawn doesn't bother me. And now basically here, and he has to resign. So that was just a very interesting game there, from a slightly unusual opening.